Good morning, ladies, and I think it's actually all ladies. Yes, of course it is for now group. It's all ladies. So good morning, ladies, or or good afternoon, even. So I thought I would pick as my topic for today to have a chat about was the concept of equality in relationships, and especially from the perspective of a modern day view in relation to a tantric view, and why and how Tantra perceives it differently. And I picked this subject because I know from my own personal experience that it can be quite difficult in modern day times. And we kind of, I've run my own businesses, I've been a businesswoman, and I've had a number of different businesses. I've spent time on my own where I haven't had a partner, running businesses, being fully absorbed in that, and found myself in very masculine energy in the way that I was being, because those are kind of the role models that we as women have had for going into business traditionally. And I'm a little bit older than some people that might be watching. So my day, women still weren't really sort of seen very fully in business, and were seen more to have kind of secretarial roles, and not really so much roles at the level of executive or director level, or even senior manager level. And you had a kind of journey into that of being, my personal journey is maybe more extreme than most people's journeys, but I had a lot of sexual harassment in the workplace, which was thought to be humour, and it sort of involved also people thinking that they could touch you physically, and also a bit of threatening stuff going on with that as well, where I was basically being indicated that if I didn't succumb to the sexual advances of various senior people, that I would be punished for that in my daily work, maybe not receiving a promotion, or life made very difficult, maybe bullying happening. So, and I wasn't alone in that. Unfortunately, I just had a series of a series of jobs where that was quite prominent, and very difficult. And that kind of set a tone for me in my working environment, that I kind of used my makeup as war paint, and I moved from kind of skirts into trousers. I was where I had a lot of trouser suits, or I wore the more long shaped skirts with boots, so it's more of a power dress that I kind of adopted. And I remember even cutting my hair and wearing glasses more, to kind of look a bit more strong and serious and not so feminine, to try and prevent these unwanted advances coming forward. So that was in my early years when I first started working. And I guess all of the role models around me, very few were women in higher positions. So without even thinking about it, without having conscious awareness about it, my way of moving forward in business was to be strong, to be able to, in Scotland you're doing business, alcohol was a large part of that. So to be able to drink and, and in those days smoke. I was in manufacturing industry at one point, and be quite strong and have that kind of hardy, to be seen as one of the boys, to be seen as a man around the table almost, but knowing that you have the feminine strength and the feminine power, but you're not really utilizing it, you're masking it with this masculinity. And then I wondered why I was going through a long period of actually failing to attract the right kind of man into my life for a while, and not really realizing that although I could dress very femininely and I could flirt or whatever, but really the energy that I was emitting was that of a male, of another man. So actually what I was inducing in the men around me was either seduction as a power play, or a competition to compete with me in some way and to feel competitive. And therefore for a lot of men that wouldn't be attractive at all, even though these weren't conscious things that I was doing. And when I reflect, I was looking around me, and now having been doing Tantra for a good 5 years, and various other spiritual practices, It's given me a lot of space to kind of reflect and see also the other ladies around me that have been traveling on this journey, other strong women who have been in business and made their way up to the top. And all these women, beautiful looking, feminine looking women, but all of them masking their actual true feminine energy and true feminine nature with this masculine approach of almost being like one of the boys, like a tomboy, when you're at school, rather than a very feminine woman. And that's very, very sad, because we have incredible and immense power as women in our feminine. And actually, when a woman is truly in her feminine, a man would never approach or try to degrade or debase that femininity. And it's actually not even vulnerability, although we show vulnerability in our true feminine. But there's a power that comes with it that actually prevents men from behaving badly energetically towards women. So sadly, in modern day times, we're not taught any of this. We're not even taught about sex. We're taught sexual education in managing not to get pregnant or catch a sexual disease, but we're not taught about intimacy. We're not taught about love making. We're not taught about foreplay. We're not taught about courtship. And everything that we see in the movies around us and stuff is very, very quickly about entering into a state of entering sexuality very, very quickly without actually having a huge amount of intimacy and connection. And in the UK and Scotland, it's even worse, because actually to hide our shyness, because we don't actually on the whole know how to build that intimacy and that connection, so we use alcohol. And then we're actually entering relationships and our sexuality very unconsciously, and we're starting our relationships and our sexual connection through sexuality in a very unconscious way, because it's normally involved large quantities of alcohol to overcome our fears and inhibitions. So I'm not saying this is the case for all ladies. I'm just saying it's a general kind of way that things tend to happen in society today, and especially in our society here in the UK. So we also have this really strong need to say that we're equal, and that we have equal rights, that we are equal in everything that we do. And in Tantra, Tantra is not very politically correct at all, I'm afraid, because Tantra very fully disagrees with this concept of equality. We are very unique, and we should remain unique. So yes, we can have equal rights in our society, but we shouldn't try to say that a man and a woman are equal, because we are designed biologically, chemically, energetically differently, and we have different roles to play in our journey, in our life journey. So obviously in Tantra is actually based more about spirituality, not sexuality. The Sanskrit word for Tantra does not translate into sex. It translates into matrix. And what Tantra really is the metaphysical science of how the universe works energetically. And the idea is to realize yourself as a metaphysical, energetic being of the universe. And that's the aim of Tantra, and sexuality is just a part of it. But because Tantra knows how to work with the energies of the universe, it has these two archetypes of the masculine and the feminine that it works with. And so it understands the interaction of these energies, of the masculine and feminine energies, very, very specifically from a scientific fact, not just an emotional fact, but from a metaphysical scientific fact. And therefore the masculine and the feminine are completely different. They have completely different roles to play. And therefore it's not about equality, it's actually celebrating that difference and actually understanding how the unification of those differences creates a much greater whole, a much greater place of growth when the masculine and the feminine come together. And basically what we're wanting to do is understand that difference, and when we understand that difference and we can celebrate that difference and own it in ourselves, then we have a beautiful, beautiful interaction that happens in relationships. It's very, very different. So if I can explain a little bit, so basically in Tantra, the masculine is represented by the archetype Shiva, the Hindu god of masculinity. So he's the male archetype. It's not about it being a god, it's just a representation, an archetype. And the masculinity is seen as everything that is consciousness, everything that is conscious awareness. And you know how we kind of joke in society and say, you know, men get really focused. When they do something, they're completely focused. They're absolutely in it. You can't sway them or shake them or anything. They're like a dog with a bone, and they're absolutely in it, and they don't want to be distracted, and you can't do anything to take them off the project that they're doing. They're in it. And then we laugh and joke that women multitask and they're doing 101 things, but then they're a little bit chaotic and a little bit distracted because they're trying to juggle all these different things. Well, that's kind of a nice little metaphor of the difference between the masculine and feminine energy. So the masculine energy is very solar, it's powerful, it's emissive, it's focused, it's concentrated, and it's about emitting energy outwards. It's the sunshine, it radiates outwards, and it's very, very powerful. And the feminine is the other way around. The feminine is all that is energy. So she's everything about energy, so everything that flows. So the feminine archetype in Tantra is called Shakti, the goddess. But she's basically representing the feminine energy, the archetype for that. And so, you know, you can say she's chaotic energy, but you don't mean that in a negative way. What we mean by that is that she can be the sea crashing, smashing around, or lovely and lulled and smoothly lapping at the shores of the beach, you know. So she can be really destructive and chaotic, or she can be really calming and really nurturing. And basically the feminine is the giver of life. She brings life in, and so she is the role of destroying what is not needed anymore and creating and birthing what is needed. And she is a reflection of the masculine. So the masculine is the consciousness that wishes to create, and Shakti is the energy that creates. So she is everything that's manifest, and she creates the energy. So the feminine is meant to be fluid and flowing and a little chaotic and a little emotional. She's meant to test and push and prod and poke. And if a man is truly in his masculine, she can test, prod, probe, do whatever Shaktiness she wants to do, seductively or mischievously or furiously, whatever energy she wants to emit out. Shiva is there, the masculine is there, and he's like the rock, you know, he's solid and he's conscious, and the energy should just bounce off him. And when she knows that she can trust that he can take all of that energy, she surrenders, because she knows she's with true masculinity, and that true masculinity will look after her and take care of her and has her best interests at heart. Now, the irony, of course, is that the men need to know that they're in the loving hands of the Shakti to actually start to evolve and develop that masculinity, that focusedness, that developedness, and that strength to be. And of course, normally you would be raised with the role models that would enable you to understand that, and you would be educated in that from an early age in those societies where we're not. So we have a situation in modern day times now where women are imitating men and impersonating men without even consciously realizing it, and men are lost. Most men are lost. They only know two kind of ways to be: either very gentle and kind, and then they're the kind of men that will complain that women walk all over them, and the kind of what we say the good guys, you know, or men are very powerful, very domineering, and kind of take what they want. The ones that we kind of say are the bad guys, and then everyone always says, why do women want to go for the bad guys that are very strong and powerful? Why don't they want the nice guys that are much softer and kinder? But both of those are incorrect examples of masculinity in balance and in its pure form, because masculinity in its pure form is a man who's very strong and very powerful and emits and knows what is, but he's doing it with a compassion, with heartfelt compassion. So there's never any cruelness, there's never any need to dominate or subdue. dominate the Shakti in any way or control her. He respects her, and he allows her to be who she is, and then she can allow him to be who he is. Yeah, and that's the difference in the masculinity. So if women are emulating the masculine, then actually they're creating a repulsion force, and if men are being very soft and gentle, they're creating a repulsion force. And if the women are more in the masculine, if they're with a dominant man that's out of balance and into the power purely, not for the benefit of those around him, but purely for himself, then it's competition, because she'll fight him, and it's a competition about who's going to dominate and who's going to win. So that doesn't work either. Yeah, so everything is out of balance, everything's out of kilter. And then you also have the women that are not in the masculine energy, but they're in, again, their weak, softer energy of the feminine, but they're not able to express themselves or show their authentic self because they're hiding and they're feeling shy and inhibited and hiding. So again, that doesn't work, because the strong man will walk all over that, the dominant male will walk all over that and abuse, and the gentleman is that he's not being polarized enough into his masculinity with that. So what needs to happen is we need to be different. We need to have the masculine and feminine polarizing each other, being the opposite ends. So if you have the positive pole and you have the negative pole, as you know, in electricity or in magnetism, that creates the energetic attraction, and you want this to be very tense, and the bigger the difference between the two, the more powerful the attraction. And the more a woman is truly in her authentic feminine, she will polarize that man into his masculine, and the more that the man is in his authentic masculine, he will polarize that woman into her feminine. Yeah, so I'm by nature very solar. I have a lot of fire energy in me. If you look at my zodiac chart, I'm very fiery, even though I'm an earth sign. There's a lot of fire energy in me, and I'm very solar, and I'm quite directive. And I'm quite strong in my thoughts and my opinions. So compared to most men around me, I'm more yang. I'm more masculine than a lot of men around me. So I will polarize a softer man more into his feminine and emasculate him even more. And with a stronger man that's not balanced, I'll be fighting and competing, and that's not very healthy for me or for them. So we need to, as women, we need to take responsibility to move back into our feminine energy and understand what it really means to be feminine. And it doesn't mean to be weak and vulnerable or pathetic, quite far from it. We had a chat, my last chat I did 2 weeks ago was on the chakras, and that each of the chakras, the 7 chakras in our body, is a different level of energetic consciousness. And as a woman, you can access the feminine consciousness of each of these different chakras, and you can present in the feminine energy of that. So if you are kind of solar, which is Manipura, the leadership element, there's a feminine way for a woman to be solar and feminine and still deliver the leadership and strength from that Manipura consciousness, but do it in a very feminine way. And the more she can add in Anahata and the energy of the heart chakra and have compassion and combine that, then she can create a wonderful form of leadership in that within the workplace. But really the art is in developing the chakras and the consciousnesses of those chakras, and then understanding what it is to be feminine, and really opening the heart is the key area for most women. We're meant to be in the heart, we're meant to be compassion, we're meant to be nurturing, we're meant to be unconditional love. And yet the way that we've been raised in society means we have so many conditions and expectations. And I watch lots of ladies, and they're writing their list of the perfect man that they want to meet, and they're creating these expectations. And I can tell you now, your perfect man will come in the least expected package and normally in the least expected way. So, if you start creating these expectations of what you want and trying to pull that in, you're maybe missing seeing the perfect guy that's coming in for you. And you pull that person into resonance, the energy that you are. So if you start to change the way that you're presenting, you will energetically put out a different energy resonance, and you will attract in the right kind of person for you at that moment in life, in this moment of your journey in life. That may be a permanent partner, or it may be a temporary one, because sometimes we have some traveling to do. To understand ourselves better, to help each other, before we're actually really ready to resonate and pull in somebody who's a life partner for us. So sometimes we're trying to pull in something for us that we're not really ready for yet either. You know, we have a lot of arrogance in modern day times that we deserve to have what we want, without actually having done the work for it. And you can't do that, I'm afraid. You have to do the inner work to bring in the right things for you. It doesn't just come by snapping your fingers because you desire it. For example, then, if you take the relationship and you have this polarity that's working, and of course it's not perfect to start with, you have to work at it, it's a journey, you have to learn about it. But when you start in this relationship, what happens when you're in a tantric relationship is that you're both coming in with awareness, and you're both fully aware that you have a journey to do on your inner self, and that the other person is on that journey as well. So you enter the relationship very fully with awareness and consciousness. And when you get triggered with your old patterns, which have nothing to do with this new person, they're just acting as a mirror for you with all your patterns that you have within you. When they trigger you, you go, I'm triggered. What's going on here? And they held space for you to explore that with you. And at first there may be a lot of tears and anger and frustration that come up, and it's fine. They hold that space with you and for you whilst you explore it. Yeah? And because they hold that space with you, they don't judge you, they don't criticize you, they just explore it with you and are by your side, allowing you to explore it. So you start to feel that you can open up, and you can become more vulnerable, and you can become more truthful, and you can become more honest, and you start to drop the mask that you're using to present yourself always in your best, as the best person that you are, and you're hiding all of what you believe is negative about you. But it's who you are. The shadow of you is also the light of you. And if you want to bring more light into your shadow, you actually have to present the shadow and be present with it. Okay? So, when you start to open up more and this person isn't disappearing, they're being present there for you, you start to surrender a little bit to them. You start to trust them. You start to surrender. And then what happens is, when they have one of their moments, which we will all have in all relationships, and they will repeat and happen, then when they're having one of their moments, you feel like you want to be present for them. And it's not about judging them, it's about being there and holding that space for them. And they're consciously exploring it because they have awareness as well, and they're going, okay, I can see something's happening here for me. I know it's not good, I know it's a pattern that's being triggered. And they're exploring it, and you help them to explore it without judgment. And because you want to give back, because they've given to you. And then what happens for them is they start to feel safe, to become more vulnerable, to open up more, to show more of who they are, and you're not running away, you're being there for them. And so they start to trust you more. And so you start, so the next time something happens for you, you open up more quickly, and you allow them to help you and support you, and you open up more of your vulnerability, and you open up more of your honesty. And then guess what happens? They do the same the next time they have an issue. So you're helping each other to expand and grow. And in that process of helping each other to expand and grow, you're allowing each other to show the truth of who you are, warts and all. And that allows you to build a huge amount of trust and a huge amount of surrender to the other one. And through that trust and surrender, which is kind of a little game of going backwards and forwards, if you like, it's not a game, but it's a journey of going backwards and forwards, that builds and grows. And you create an incredible foundation for being together. Yeah, that very few people are going to be able to knock or rock in any shape or form. Yeah, and you become more because of each other. Yeah, and you cannot really love another human being until you can trust and surrender to yourself, So opening up and showing who you truly are to another person is actually surrendering to your own authentic self, to your own truth, and learning to trust yourself. That's the gift that a tantric, aware, conscious relationship can give you. And if you understand how a woman is meant to be, and you understand how a man is meant to be, you're not judging that. You know, my partner, when I'm having one of my moments, he'll go, great, she's being Shakti, she's teaching me, you know. And when he has one of his moments, I'm like, great, he's showing me, he's teaching me. I'm learning to become more Shakti, more compassion, more love. You know, I don't see it as a challenge and an issue. I see it as an opportunity for me to grow in my ability to open my heart and support him. And if I'm doing my job properly, instead of him continuing feeling angry or frustrated, he will actually calm down and come into a place of more solarity as I help to polarize him by going more into the feminine. So in Tantra, we're not equal. We are not equal. We are so different and so powerful. And in Tantra, they will say that the woman is actually the gateway to God for the man. So men are not naturally tantric. Women are. Women are naturally energy conduits. And they naturally know how to feel and perceive energy. It's just that most of us have started acting in the masculine and therefore have desensitized ourselves to our own very powerful, juicy, energetic, voluptuous being, you know. And if we can drop this mask, and we can drop this persona that we've started to carry and step into that juiciness of the feminine, then we can help the men around us step into the solarity and power of the masculine. And it's not for us to expect a man to change, it's for us to change ourselves so that we, through being and walking our talk of being who we are as women, create that polarization in men so they desire to want to change, so they desire to want to do that. And the more we can polarize men into the masculine, and we can show beautiful examples of truly masculine polarized men, then more men will want to be like that, because they'll see that. They'll see the power, the good, healthy, wholesome power that man has, and his ability with women and how women respond to him. You know, I can just walk down the street with my partner and we can go into a restaurant, and all the ladies, the waitresses and that, they don't even realize it. They're just gently leaning into him, they're looking at him. I'm completely ignored, they've forgotten all about me. They're just kind of looking at him and they're leaning in, and they don't even realize what's going on. And he's not flirting, he's just being in his masculine power. And they're just so not used to that, they don't even realize it's so subconscious that they're drawn in, they're drawn towards him. So this is the role that we as women, you know, need to find and develop. It's our role to support the men into their masculine, and we need to understand and find our feminine. The more we help men become masculine, the more they'll help us be in our feminine. So anyway, that's my little chat for today. If you've enjoyed that and you want to know more, then come and join us at the Alchemy of Living.co.uk. We run various courses on helping you to understand yourself as an energetic being, and what that means, and how to find your polarity in the feminine and the masculine. I very much love sharing all these amazing, this amazing knowledge, and I love to help people find their way with that, because we can live life in a much, much better way when we have the awareness and the consciousness to understand what our true potential is and what we can actually start to access. So if you've enjoyed this, leave some comments below, let me know, and you can contact me directly. And I look forward to seeing you in a fortnight for our next chat, whatever that may be that comes to mind. And if you actually have some ideas you'd like me to talk about from the talks that I've already done, then please put them down below here, and I will have a look and see, and I can always utilize that as a theme for the next talk. So take care, good lovely ladies, goodbye for now.